So I like talking first about high school. Like
Oh,
you can talk even earlier, but I just find that those high school years can be very interesting and that it is like trying to figure out like who am I? Who am I going to be? And like did you have anybody pressuring you to like do this or like yeah, what did you think you were going to do with your life when you were in high school? And did you have any clue?
actually, my life, like during high school, was probably the darkest
Mm.
um, th- thus far in my entire 46 years of being on the earth, only because it's high school. So there's that. But that was like the biggest transition of we went from being super comfortable financially to so poor that
Oh.
I would unfortunately have to break into neighbors' homes to get food.
Oh my
So it was like a
goodness.
really
Serious.
serious like shift in my life. And it's high school, so just that alone sucks. But it was hard. But it also is the foundation of who I am, what I've even created in my whole life. It's right after high school, we became homeless. So it's like ironic that at one point in my life, I didn't have a home and now I create beautiful homes for people.
Wow. So so it sounds like was high school pretty much sort of like survival? Like were you thinking though, like, oh my gosh, once I get out of this, I want to do that? Or was it just like making it through?
I think it for sure it was survival in addition to the normal angst that any teenager has, like of boyfriends and breakups and being cool and fitting in and getting friends and being popular and not being popular. And, there's just so much going on. But I ended up having to work really at a young age. I think I started at like 14. And I remember now as an adult coming home from school and doing the weirdest things of like cleaning the house in a really strange way of like I remember taking the screens off of the house to like clean them in the backyard, and nobody was home and nobody asked me to do this, but I know I'm old enough now to realize it was me trying to control something that was so out of control in my life. So I just think there was so much chaos going on in my life at the time. And I remember having my first breakup, which we all do at that time. But now that I have nieces that are, past that high school age, I realize how detrimental that is to a life to have like that first big heartbreak. And that was hard. That was also in addition to everything else that was going on in my life. So as much as I think anybody looking at me through like who knew me in high school, except for my really close friends, they would be like, "Oh my God, she was so popular and she had it all together." It was like complete and utter bullshit.
So that's what I was gonna say. Like, did people know what the reality of what was like? Well, because yeah, also I guess you said your family didn't end up homeless till after you graduated. So even though it was a
But
big
it started,
change,
right?
it
But
started
it
that, and
started
like, yeah, you're needing
because
to steal food and all of
yeah,
that. Like,
it
yeah, were
started
you
already
still like
because but
playing the part of regular
yeah.
high school, whatever?
Oh,
People didn't
for
know.
sure. No idea. And the reason we got evicted from the house, and as we all know, like it takes a while for the courts to finally get you out of the house. So it happened right after, thank God, high school, graduation. But the hard time was before that. So my mom always told me no matter how much money we have or how little money we have, you could still be proud of your house, meaning it should be clean, it should stay organized. Like you don't need money to clean your house. And I think that's what my passion is now, like why I've always been in budget design. And I'm not that designer on TV that's like going to Hermes and Frou Frou and here in Paris. It's like, who cares? Like, who cares? Because I truly believe that your home should be your sanctuary. And we all work hard and we all, like, at the end of the day, especially now as I get older, like, there's no better feeling than to not have any plans and like to be just in my bed at 9 o'clock at night, like, and the house is clean. Like, there is no better feeling on this earth. So I've always had that passion of creating a safe place to land and that being your home. So yeah, to answer your question, did anyone know that we were so poor? No, because I think if you came to the house, it didn't look that way. But we were in dire straits for sure.
And so when you graduated high school and your family lost the house, what was next for you?
I ended up having to move to New York City. My cousin had a sofa that was open for business. So I moved in with her. I stayed on the sofa in this extra room she had. And then
And
I got,
where were you at that you were growing up that you moved from?
oh, here in LA.
Oh God. So yeah, that's a big move. It was like, yeah, are you in New
Huge.
Jersey and you moved
Yeah.
to Atlanta?
No. It was a huge move. And then I got a job at the Harley Davidson Cafe in Manhattan, making I think like $7.50 an hour. And I thought I was just like, I'm good to go now. And it just kind of started. I was always a hustler though. I even before all this happened, I was always like an entrepreneur at heart. I mean, we had a kumquat tree in our backyard when I was like a little kid, and I would sell them door to door, telling people they were miniature pumpkins. And all these people were like, "No, girl, this is a kumquat." And I'm like, "No, it's a miniature pumpkin, and for 50 cents." So I think, I've always been independent that way. And so, I just had to start early, really.
And so you ended up in New York City mainly just because your cousin had a place for you to sleep.
Correct.
And
Correct.
then while you were there, get a job in the service industry, serving whatever. And then, yeah, like how long did you how long did you stay in that? And like, what was like next for you? Like, did you move to
I
different
stayed,
service jobs or how long were you in New York?
I stayed there. God, I think I would want to say maybe a year, maybe more than that. And then I ended up coming back here to visit my sister and my family. And then I ended up falling in love with somebody who lived here. And then I moved back, so I just came back to LA. Um, but I worked I worked just in marketing and doing things like that. And then wanted to always be on TV. And so I would go on auditions here and there. And then I got my first like real TV job. I think I was 21 years old. And then it kind of just went from there.
But so in that time, because yeah, you don't go to college, right?
I did go to
You
college, but I
did.
didn't finish. But my dad still reminds me at 46 years old that I didn't finish. I'm like, Dad, I think I'm good.
Was that while you were in New York or once you moved back or both?
Once I moved back here, I
You
was going to like little like community college and then, all of
got it.
that. So
And the
yeah.
marketing you job, was that just like a job? Like you're just applying to have
A
jobs, not like,
job.
right.
Yeah, like job. And I ended up working for a company, if anybody remembers Earthlink, which was an internet service provider. And I was like the 27th employee. So I don't know if you remember, but Earthlink became like a huge company after that. But I was like one of the first employees there, like answering phones and it was just like hilarious, but complete chaos because I had no business answering phones. Like I think they had me doing like 12 jobs. And I remember like at one point I was doing customer service and I was picking up the phone and it got like so crazy because it was me and like one other girl answering customer service line for like thousands of people. And I was just like picking at one point I was like picking up and hanging up. Like I just I can't. So it's just been, sort of a hodgepodge of stuff to survive for work.
And when you said you wanted to be on TV, did you like want to be an actress? Were you like, I want to be a host? Like what was like the
Host.
dream there? And like,
Yeah, like
like because I
I
grew up like
wanted.
wanting to be like an MTV VJ.
Yeah, same. So I actually auditioned. Do you remember when they had open calls for MTV VJs?
Yeah, I probably either it wasn't anywhere where I could, or I wasn't maybe at the age, or then maybe then I just was into something else by then because I wanted to become a live sound engineer and I did that. But so like I do remember, but not in a way that it was like accessible to me at the time.
Oh, I went. Not only did I go, but I spent the night on the streets in LA with my mother to be the first in line for the audition the next morning. My mom actually spent the night, which looking back, I'm like, my mom's
Wow.
badass for doing that. But we spent the night on the streets with a bunch of other people, like people were intense and shit. Um, and I got past the first round. But yeah, I wanted to do that because I also loved music at the time. So I was like, I want to be a VJ. I love music. And, I always wanted to host, but that's not the way it ended up.
But so when you said you were like auditioning at that age, like what was the first thing you got? Were you just going out
The
on like anything for like a commercial or this or like
Yeah, I mean, I have very funny stories about that, but when I first went on my first audition, they call it a conflict. So right before you do the audition, the person putting them on asks everyone, do you have a conflict doing this? Meaning, if it's a Bud Light commercial, have you done Miller Light? Because if you have, then we don't even bother. So this guy, it was a Bud Light commercial, and this guy goes around the room. He was like, does anybody have a conflict? I need to hear it from each person. And he gets to me, and I didn't know what a conflict was. So I was like, conflict? I love beer. And like everybody started laughing, but I wasn't kidding. I was like, why is everybody laughing? Okay, whatever. And so I was obviously green, but my first real job was hosting the show called A Dating Story on TLC.
That was your like the first thing you ever got hired for, period?
Yeah, I mean, I did a pilot
air,
for MTV on air, like that actually aired. I did a pilot for MTV, but it never aired. But yeah, I mean, I started working and going on the road, and I just thought like that was it. I was going to make it.
Wait, what was the show again?
For MTV, it was called The Big Urban Myth Show. But for TLC, my first series was A Dating Story. So I basically like helped people go on blind dates.
Wow. And so, yeah, because that's a different, like, you're not like, you were intentionally auditioning to be like a host, not an actress.
Yeah. No, I didn't want to be an actress. Like, I liked being me.
Yeah. And so how long was that series?
The series, I mean, I did a lot of episodes, but it was like back in the days when TV was picked up, a lot of episodes at a time. And then I took a break. The show got canceled, and I took a break and got into design and real estate. And
yeah, so how did that happen? Was it just more of like, okay, great. Like, I'm guessing you're like, I'm hired, this is it. Like,
yeah. And then it wasn't.
This is my hosting career. Here we 100%. Go.
I'm like,
buckle up.
Yeah, buckle up. I'm going to be, in Malibu in no time. Never, came to fruition. But when I kind of took a break, and then just thought I have to like really get a career in order. And I did design and real estate, and I was making decent money. I just didn't like the transactional part of doing real estate. And I just knew, I can't explain it, but I just knew that this wasn't the right fit for me. And it had nothing to do with money, because I was making a great living. I just knew there was like a part of my soul that was not fulfilled. And
wait, when did you say designer real estate? Were you a real
design
estate
and real estate? So I did like staging. I did staging and real estate and mortgages. And
what was the entry point? Like, did you first get in it staging, or were you like, okay, yeah,
no, I first got in it assisting. Yeah, I got my license, real estate agent, my real estate license, but I was helping my cousin who needed help at the time, and she was just inundated. She was doing great in real estate. So,
you got whatever it's called, got certified or became a real estate agent because your cousin already.
Yeah, it was like I fell into it. But we were working in an office in Thousand Oaks, and it was near a Baja Fresh. And I was in lunchtime, like going to grab a burrito or whatever. And I just remember standing in line going like, I don't belong here. Not that I don't belong in Baja Fresh, because I still do love Baja Fresh, but it was more of like, I don't belong in this job in a lunch break doing this. And it was so frustrating at the time, because I didn't know where I belonged. I just knew I didn't belong here. And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that can relate to that, because it could be like you're with your husband or wife and you're like, I don't belong here, but it's not like where like it's like, but it's also so scary, because you're like, I don't belong here, but I don't know where I belong. So maybe I'll just stay here, and it's like you get stuck in that rut, and then years go by and you're like, like, what have I done with my life?
Because, and you're saying when you're in that Baja Fresh in that moment too, like you said, really outside wise, you're doing good. Like you're making good money. Great. You don't have to worry. Like you're in a great position.
Fantastic. And so I went home. My friend at the time kept telling me about this documentary called The Secret. This was before Oprah, before it was a book. It was the only way you could watch it at that time. It was 2006. You had to pay $4 and I think 95 cents, and you watched it on a website. So I was home working, because I was flexible, that I got to work out at my house. And I was married at the time. And I watched, finally, I was like, I'm going to watch that stupid documentary you keep telling me I need to watch. And I watched it, and I'm telling you, I don't know what happened to me, but something clicked inside of my soul. that I was like, oh my God, these people, that's what I know. Like, how did I forget about this shit? Like, I can do whatever the fuck I want. Sorry, am I allowed to curse?
Yes.
Okay, just bleep it out. Um, my husband at the time gets home from work, and I was like, I'm gonna be back on TV, and I'm gonna be back on TV. And he was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? We had just gotten married. He's like, you're making a great living. We just moved into this house. You want to go back to that? And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not wanting to. I'm going to. And he thought, he was like, that face you just made. He was like, okay, sure. Like, you're out of your mind. And that night, I fell asleep, and I just had this like, tomorrow I'm going to go start working out because I'm going to be back on TV. Like, I'm going to start. Meanwhile, I had no like leads,
Yeah.
like, but I just knew it in
You're
my
like,
soul.
that's what's happening. So I'm going to
That's
be
what's happening. So I
showing
got
up
to
for
start.
that.
Right. So that night, I woke up in the middle of the night. There was like the doorbell rang. And so I woke up my husband at the time, and I was like, somebody's at the door. And he's like, nobody's at the door. And of course he made me go get it. Hence why I'm divorced. But shout out to my first husband. Um, so I get up to, nobody's at the door. So I was already up. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, I'm going to go to my office and start looking for TV jobs. And I looked at Craigslist, and that was my first HGTV show. There was an
What?
ad.
No.
Yeah. Yes. There was an ad looking for a designer that had TV experience. So I had some design experience. I had some TV experience.
Because
So
you
like,
had done the real, like, is the real estate the reason you had the design experience? Because you were now like staging homes?
yes, but it was like, when I say experience, I mean, I'm using that term loosely. Like,
Right, but
I
otherwise, if you hadn't gotten into real estate though, would you,
right.
you know,
I probably still would have sent my shit out.
you'd really still been like, yeah, sure, design, but like, okay.
So then I didn't hear anything. So it's like, that was, looking back, that was my first HGTV job. But I had sent my email out. I left it be. I literally just went like, okay, I'll send other stuff out. So I was like going anywhere, talking to people. I started working out. Like, I was training to be on TV, but I didn't hear anything from anybody. Then like weeks later, I get a phone call from that first Craigslist ad that I'd done. And that was Steve Edelman, who owned Edelman Productions, and he produced my first HGTV job. 16 weeks later, after I watched The Secret, I was on set filming my first show.
Wow. And what was, so that show too, you're saying like you didn't have a design background. And
I mean, I wouldn't say I was an expert, and my mom would make fun of me because on my first show they would call me like Sabrina Soto, design expert, and or like Sabrina Soto, design expert, like in quote. And my mom's like, they need to just put it next to expert. Like, Jesus. But you know what? I busted my ass when I got that job, because every day I didn't.
And
I
what was the show like? What was the yeah, how did it flow, or what was
it was a staging show. So it was me like putting, like, designing houses to get sold, but it was called Get It Sold.
Also, that is bananas.
I know.
You
it's crazy.
were a real estate staging show.
It's crazy.
Staging houses.
But what a lot of people, I don't even like, no one really knows the story, but so I had to move to DC. I lived here in LA, and I had to move to DC to shoot the show. So I had no friends, didn't know anyone. I didn't even know one person who lived in DC. So I would get off work, and I would go to this place in Books called Books A Million in DuPont Circle. I think it's still there. And I would get any book that I could get my hands on about DIY and like construction. And I would literally study every night so that the next day I could give tips on how to spackle or how to change a light fixture. And the whole show became this show full of tips, but that's not how they wanted it to be. It just became that because I was so like excited to like share the knowledge that I just found out, like,
because it's a house, or it's a show where you're going to sell somebody like, yeah, this person wants to sell their home. So, right. Like, they're moving out, then they might have, they need to spackle a hole where a painting or something like that. You're coming into like, but you were like, we're going to let's make your house look awesome to attract the buyers. We'll stage it.
Right.
But you were just like, so like excited to be there. You're learning all these different things and then bringing those tips into, again, you are furthering help these people to make their house look nicer to sell it quicker.
But yeah, but that was like what I brought to the table because I still am like, I love nerding out on like hacks for the house, like how to remove a water stain mayonnaise, how to do this, like a dent in a carpet ice cube. And my friends always knew like I was that go-to girl for that kind of like useless house information. I mean, if you look through my phone now, it's literally just questions from my friends like, oh my God, I spilled this. What do I do? It's like, oh, you do this. But so I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I get to bring this to like the masses. And so the show actually became successful because of those tips. Because even if you weren't selling the house, you still were like, oh my God, I could do that now, like to make my house look better.
Very cool. And does that come from your mom at all? Like knowing those
Yes.
things, those
Yes, for sure.
hacks?
She was a party planner. She loved, she was such a crafter. So I was always with her doing stuff around the house and she made the house. And so did my grandmother. They were huge about making the house beautiful. It was a very much, like my grandmother would, no matter what time you would show up to her house, the house would be impeccable.
Well, that's what I thought that because you said earlier about how even though, yeah, the financial situation changed so drastically, then your mom was like, well, yes, we still like keep our house nice though, whatever. So it's like she must have
Yeah.
become like resourceful too in these ways to,
Well, I mean, both my parents are immigrants. They're both came here from Cuba with nothing. And I mean nothing. And my grandmother, they didn't have much in Cuba either. So, but like I went back to the house that my mom grew up in, back, God, I want to say like 12 years ago. And it's such a beautiful, it was like a little shack, but the floors were beautiful. And like the way that it was just, you don't have to have money to live a beautiful life. And I think we get lost because of social media and and we can go on and on about that, but like, it doesn't matter, all of those things, you know?
yeah. So that first show that you did, how long did it end up lasting?
5 years.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. I was in a DC for 5 years and then I moved to New York for another show. So I was gone from here in LA. I want to say 9 years back, like doing HGTV shows back to back.
But was that the 5 years? Was it that same show where you were
It
like,
was it was that show. Then I did a show called Real Estate Intervention, and then I did a show called The High Low Project in New York.
what was the high low project?
I would create these really expensive rooms, and then if the homeowners loved the room, I would ask them what they could afford because the room was like $50,000, and I'm like, okay, you love this, but how much can you afford? They're like 3,000. I'm like, okay. So I would take everything out and bring it back and make it look exactly the same, but for their budget.
That's interesting. And was that concept, where did that come from? Was that something you brought to them or was that a show they
No,
wanted
that
to
was
make?
something, yeah, that's what they wanted to make. And they knew that I was known for budget design at the time. And there's so many different designers on HGTV and, everyone stands for their own thing, but I've always stood for budget friendly, beautiful designs.
And so as like, I feel like since you already were saying season one of that show, going to the bookstore after hours and like learning things, were you able to be confident as the show like grew in that too, to not be like, oh, I'm an imposter, I'm not a designer or something, like because you were like continuously putting yourself in that, you know what I mean? Like, because sometimes it's
No,
like people you were not
no,
confident.
I still feel like an
Okay.
imposter. I mean, what? I mean, I think,
But no, but isn't it interesting? Because the way you're talking right now, it's like, and obviously it's both. Like you're confident, I'm awesome at what I do. This,
yeah, I mean,
and
I'm
like
confident.
that's
Here's the
like the
thing.
human, like that's the human
Yeah,
condition. It's like,
I feel like I'm confident in who I am. I'm confident in Sabrina, but am I confident in everything that I do? Absolutely not. And like, but I have humility about it now. Whereas I think if you would have asked me when I started, it was very stressful and there was a lot of anxiety around it. And now I'm just like,
right.
I have the confidence to tell you I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Well, that's
Like,
what I'm wondering, that experience of like, that's huge. You had this show and you did like make it happen. And it wasn't as like, yeah, you might not have been the design expert when they hired you on that, but like you also were really showing up and like making it work. And but yeah, like what was that experience as it growed into? And like, yes, I'm sure there are people out there like, oh, she doesn't know this or whatever. And so like, yeah, how did you move through? And like you're saying back then, it might have been you were more anxious and that. Now you're like, oh, okay, this, like, there's space for both. But like, what was that experience like for you of like,
I'll
you
tell you
did
what
it,
the
like
difference
you're
is.
a host and you're on TV and there's this, and now you're known for this.
I know, but I think back, if there's anyone listening, like going that can relate to this story, it's like I think what brought me anxiety was me trying to fit in the hole that everybody else was doing on HGTV. Like everyone wasn't self-taught, like went for these design schools, knew everything and every trend and what was happening in Europe, and I didn't, and quite frankly, I didn't even care, but I loved home and I just liked cleaning and organizing and stuff. But because I was trying to fit into everybody else's box and compare myself to them, that's when I cut, like, that's where I screwed up. But when I finally came back to who I am, what makes me different, my voice, my authentic Sabrina voice, then I was like, I already have that down. I don't even have to pretend. Like this, that's innately who I am.
And how did like that happen? Did you end up having like, like a breakdown moment, or like just continuously like, why do I keep stressing about this? Like,
It took
like,
years. I'm not even gonna lie. Like I, I went through such a comparing yourself to other people in your field is the worst thing you could ever do in your life. Like stop. Like just listen to me, just trust me, just stop doing it, because it is like such a waste of energy. I think back now, I remember in a time, it was right after I had Olivia. I felt I was so out of the loop. I felt like I didn't have, I just felt deflated. And I'm sure that had a little bit to do with just being a new mom, trying to like navigate the waters of juggling it all. But I remember being in comparison land all the time. I was looking at what they were doing on social media, da 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 da. Da. And I look back now because one person that I was comparing myself to just popped up in something else. And I'm like, oh my God, it just reminded me, like, oh my God, do you remember when I was obsessed with that person? Like, that person didn't even pop into my mind at all for like years. But it's like, I look back with, again, laughing, like, wow, what a waste of energy, But that comes with maturity too. So sometimes you just can't force those things.
yeah. Yeah, no, I was just wondering if there was like some sort of like life lesson or whatever that really like got it through to you. Because again, too, like even once you have that clarity, I think it's still like you can fall into it and then it's like, oh right. Oh, here I am.
Yeah.
Oh wait,
Yeah.
like, even if you saw the moment of that person you said you used to be obsessed, and it could have been like, oh wait, what are they doing? And then like, oh right, well who, like, great, good for them. Like it's like, but a
Exactly.
moment
Good
could
for
have like
them.
like
Because there's enough to go around, there's enough. There isn't like this bank account of the universe that's like, oh, now we already gave it to them. Sorry. Like that's not the way it works. There's enough for everyone to be successful, and there's enough for everyone to find their niche, like to find their voice. And there isn't another Sabrina Soto, there just isn't out there. And there's another you, and there's another whoever's listening. There isn't another one of you. You're a snowflake.
Yeah. Isn't it so interesting how we do? It's like, oh, okay, so that's the way I guess I should be doing it, or this, that, like whatever. And we like try to, we don't even realize we're like trying to follow some mold or imprint, but then that's taking away
From who you
what
are.
and what who we are and what we are, the impact we are wanting to make, or what makes us us, and how that message might get across differently. You could say the same, like people could say the same exact things and it'll land differently
That's
for the
right.
same
It's the same way.
person
I
too.
mean, how many self-help books have you read that's the same thing, but there's one like author that you're like, oh, yes. It's like,
Yeah.
well, okay, it's the same, but yeah, it's everybody has their own voice. But and what you were saying earlier, I'm in social media, you hear this all the time, like this book changed my life. And yes, it can change your life, but it's okay that it'll change your life for a little while. Then sometimes you get back to like beating yourself up or going back to your old habits. And it's just, you have to remind yourself to get back on the path. Like, don't beat yourself up for taking steps backwards. I think that's what we're supposed to do. So yeah, again, to answer your question, like, yes, I'm more confident now than I was back then, but do I sometimes get, you know, pushed by brands to be like, why isn't your social up? Why is, And then I'm like, oh, what should I be doing? Maybe I should look at this person, what they're doing. It's like, no, like I can't, I got to do what speaks to me authentically. And I have to stop a lot of times to like figure out what that is because I forget.
Yeah, no, that's again like the human experience. And for
Right.
me, it's not like, yeah, like I think it is so easy to like shame ourselves. Oh no, I'm not a good personal whatever. Like, oh, I thought I had it all figured out, or I had this aha or that, but how dare I have this thought? It's like
Yeah.
that's the humanist, and then be like, oh, and just like oh, there's you comparing yourself again, like, oh, that's not enough thought, like, oh, okay, it's just like coming from a place of compassion, like, ah, you fucked up. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
judged somebody or you compared yourself to someone else. It's like, oh, right, okay, well, what's going on there? All right.
Right. Right.
And how do I feel and what do I want? But so okay, so so you had those shows in New York. What got you back to LA? And did you with your yeah, you said you had your daughter.
Yeah. So I was burnt out. I mean,
That's what I was wondering.
yeah, I was working a lot. Like I had shows. I was just working a lot and I'm so grateful for all that work, but I really wanted to get back to LA and my family was here, my sister, and I wanted to have a baby. And um I just knew that I wanted to have it here and with my sister and my mom nearby. And it was sort of a scary part because I didn't have work. I didn't, have anything really going because I kind of wanted to take a break from everything. And then I had Olivia and there was a bit of a lull, like after that, like nothing really happening for a little while. But as I always know, it's like everything always works out the way it's supposed to. I mean, I look back now at jobs that I thought were going to be my dream come true. And I realize now why it didn't work out. Like, it's another thing that I can't wait to tell Olivia when she's older. It's like when you think that it's got to be this way and it's got to work out and that has to come, this opportunity, no, this is the one that you really want. It's like you have to realize that the universe may have better plans for you. Even though you think that this is just the best case scenario, like that's not always the case. And I'm reminded myself of that exact thing all the time.
Is that like so would that be like during those times like an opportunity would come or not an opportunity but like oh hey we're looking for someone for this like basically like there'd be some interest in like okay this is going to be it but then it didn't go to you or like oh you didn't get that show or that opportunity but there was like a possibility so then it's like okay this is it.
Yeah, well, especially in TV, it's like there's so many conversations and like, yeah, this is going. And then all of a sudden, like something happens and it's like canceled. And there was one really big job that I thought was like my end all be all. But I know looking back now, had that actually gone through, my life would be so different. And I don't even know if I would have Olivia. And I don't even know. I mean, I know I wouldn't be living here. And I couldn't even imagine my life without her. Like you could take everything away except for her and I'd be happy. So you have to trust the universe. I tell Olivia that we all have guardian angels, and I don't know if you believe in it, but I really believe that I have like a guardian angel or two, and I know like I have to just trust the universe has my back. Like, and even when I'm like down and in the middle of some shit, that I'm like, what? Like, why? It's like, no, I can't see why yet this is happening, but there's a reason. I just have to like take care of my body and myself and to like ride this wave.
Yeah, I have the mantra that I like to lean on a lot too in those times, just everything is going my way, where it's like can feel like, oh, but that didn't happen. I didn't get that opportunity, or oh, they said no. But okay, somehow it is going my way. I just don't know
Yeah.
how yet. Like, yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
get that opportunity because a different one is coming that's going to be even better.
That's right. That's
Uh,
absolutely right.
so what yeah, so during that time after you had Olivia and like you're saying these opportunities were sort of like showing up but not like what happened and did you start creating your own like opportunities or was it still just like waiting for the right fit?
I Yeah, I mean, I created my own opportunities. Things in the universe just like popped out of nowhere. Um which it's kind of hard because when you hear about the law of attraction, everybody's just like, write a vision board and then just like, wait, it's like, no, that's not how it works. But yes, you let go of how it's going to happen, but you still like do things. Like even when I was telling you the story of how I was working out, like getting camera ready so I could feel confident on camera, like I knew it was coming. Nobody was calling me. Like no one was calling, but I just innately knew I was getting prepared for when the opportunity came. I felt confident. So it's like that. I still live my life like that. And trust me, like I work in television. I'm getting older. Like this is the business that I'm in. So I still truly believe that things are happening, what you just said. They're happening for me. And it's all working out in a way that sometimes I have no idea how. And I'm not saying I don't have bad days. I have bad days all the time. And then I have days that I'm like, oh, forget it. Nobody cares. But, I try to use my tools that I've found to get myself out of those ruts when I do start second guessing myself.
And but other things have come, right? Weren't you've worked on shows since
Oh my,
Olivia's
yeah.
been the
But still, like, I'm living a great life now. Like, I'm on my show on CBS just got picked up for a third season. I just got word last week that another show that I worked on for a pilot got picked up. I have product lines that just got picked up. Like
that's so
everything is it's
awesome.
awesome. But I didn't know this stuff was coming. And like, of course, last year I was worried about a million things. But it's those days that I'm starting to worry. I'm like, I don't know what's coming. Like it's like planting a seed and staring at the soil, right? And you're just like, nothing's happening. You know, I'm just going to give up and walk away. It's like, no, like just wait because it's like trying to find its way through that soil to break through.
Yeah, it's so frustrating that we never know. Like
I
like
know.
that's like the beauty of life, and also like, yeah, the frustration of like you don't know, like you could run into somebody at a coffee
You're
shop
one
and it
phone
could
call away.
be
Yes.
like that. Like, yeah, an email from
You're
3 months
one
ago
call,
could
one
get
email,
returned. Like,
one phone call, one like running into somebody from your entire life changing. Like your entire life can change in 1 second, depending on you'll have to be open for it.
yeah. Yeah. So interesting. What are the shows? What is the recent show that you were doing? And again, is this now, are you at a place where you are like pitching shows or they come to like fit like, okay, we're looking for hosts for this show or
Both,
both?
both. So I'm doing a kind of combination of both. I'm pitching shows, executive producing on shows that I'm on, and then the CBS show was brought to me. It's called Secret Celebrity Renovation, where we go and pay it forward with celebrities. So like last season, Shaq paid it forward to his uncle, and we redid his house in Orlando. So it's really a feel good show, and it's really fun. I get to work with Michelle and Rob, and they're just like we're like a weird little family, and I have a great time with them.
That's fun. And how did the like product collaborations, is that
Yeah,
how
the
did that
product
come to
line,
be? Because that's so cool.
it's so fun. So I have my rug line that I've had for years, and that I've just been developing, and I continue to develop. And then the
Oh, and is
line that
that
I
something that originally came to you as a
yes,
possibility or that you created
no,
or
it was a manufacturer that came through me through Instagram. But like this is,
through
I
Instagram? Because
know,
I would have assumed, oh, right, through
yeah,
HGTV, like that.
nope.
So you never freaking know.
This is what I'm trying to listen. Whoever is listening to this, you promise me I'm not BSing you. You never know. Like you would think somebody who's on television who has agents would be like, yeah, your agent got you that. That's how you got these things. No, like even my new line that I don't think I'm allowed to talk about. It's a new organization line, and it's with a big company. That also came through a woman who had seen me, and she was an agent, and she DM'd me, like she slid into my DMs, and she wrote like, I know you're gonna think I'm a crazy person, but I promise you, like I really do this for a living. Like look at but I want to talk to you about doing a line. And I like read the DM, and that was a little over a year ago, and finally it's coming to life. Like, but it's just you never ever ever know.
I love that. What and then yeah, because you're now doing like your social media, I feel like too, you're like always giving the tips
because
and
that's what I love.
creating
Like I
things
love it.
and
But you
stuff.
know, there's some people that are like, you know, they think that's corny or they think whatever, but I don't care because I love I love finding products or I love finding little hacks to make life a little bit easier. I just geek out on that stuff. And so again, like somebody else could be giving advice on how to, I don't know, like deal with the trends of 2023 in the kitchen. Great. Go do that. Like that, go do that because that's what brings you passion, but that's not who I am.
Right. And there's space for people want to know that.
Yeah.
People want to know the trending. There are people out there that need to know what to do with their kitchen in 2023, I guess, if they're and then also the people that are looking for the simple tips, which by the way, I just started doing the shower cleaning in the
Squeaky.
shower
Yeah.
one
Cleaning.
from that. Like I saw you sharing that one and I like saw that video on TikTok last year and was like, yeah, I'll try that. And I like finally like bought the thing.
So much easier.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. What yeah, like what else did we not go over that I want to make sure that we talk
I
about?
don't know. I'm sure you weren't even expecting all of those stories. You're probably like, what?
No, I love it. I love it. I love it. I just want to make sure I didn't like skip over anything else. Wait, you have a podcast, right?
I do. It's called Redesigning Life. It isn't about design. It's about, you know, sort of I bring in guests and sometimes I have solo episodes where I talk about the things that I'm going through and the tools that I have found. I mean, I have tried it all. I have literally, if you tell me that there's some guy in San Bernardino who is going to heal me with the, you know, basil, which by the way, I've been to this person. Um, he hit me over the head with basil and literally spit vodka in my back. Um, didn't do anything. But anyway, I'm telling you that I've tried it all. I've literally tried it all.
Okay, so what leads you down that path to try it all?
Because why not? Like
Because why not?
why not? Like Reiki, sure. Like shaman to do a mushroom journey, let's do it. Like what? Let's just
And
do
is
it
it
all
more
because
you're seeking the things out, like what's next, or they show up and you're like, okay, yeah, I'll try that. Okay,
no, I seek
tell
them
me the
out.
basil guy.
Yeah, well, because if you know, I'm like a guinea pig for my friends. Like if you tell me, like if somebody tells me they went to this Reiki healer and it was amazing, they felt great. I'm like, okay, I'll go, and then I go, and then I'll tell you, you know, if it's good or like I'll figure out for myself. But I'm always I suffer from anxiety and definitely overthinking, and I look for tools constantly to make it better. And I have like how much I had like anxiety I had years ago to what I have now, it's substantially different. And it's not, it's only because of the tools that I've found with meditation and breath work and moving my body and eliminating like some things that I was doing that was really like torching the fire of anxiety. So, you know, I've found what works for me. And if you want to know,
Yeah,
and you
what
want
are
to go down this journey, like then that's why I had the podcast. The podcast was like my
got
passion
it.
project. I never thought people would listen. And
Yeah,
like
like
really,
what led you to start that and how long ago did you start it?
like 2 years ago, and I really like was like, I'm just gonna do this because I want to have these people on. And then I couldn't believe it was like rated the number 3 podcast in that genre. Like what? Like how are these? Like I didn't even know people could find it. And it's been so fun to be able to do because I just talk about the things that I'm passionate about. And there's, you know, there's no agenda and like I don't have to worry about like a network telling me what to talk about. I just get to just be me.
And it's not at all like designing your house.
No, it's designing your life.
Love that. What else are there things that you have like within you that you're wanting to make in the future or
Yeah, I
create?
mean, I have a list like right now. So I'm in my garage, but I turned it into my office. So I have a list in like the garage uh refrigerator of like everything that I have going, but like all the things that I also want to bring into 2023 and like products that I want to come out with. And weirdly, one of the things I wrote last year is that line that just got picked up, but it was just an idea. It was just this idea that was on my refrigerator. And like the fact that it's coming like it's going to happen and people are going to be holding this. It's just wild. It's like life is so crazy. It's just wild. I'm just in awe every day of just how much we are really in control when we always think that we're out of control and that it's in everyone else's hands.
Did you say that you have a list of things that you're wanting, but also a list that's going on?
I have a list of things that right now like are going on and things
So what
that
does
I
that
want
mean?
to.
So what goes on the list of like going on? Is it just
It's just
the
like the
work projects?
Yeah, work projects that are happening like currently, and then things that I want, like I'm looking at it now. It's like so I keep glancing over there. And
But
then like things that I
do
want.
you have the list? Like, is that there for the intention to like have you be present to what you've already created and what's working on? Or is it just to like, remember to do this? Like, is it like a to-do list or like, hey, don't
It's more of
forget
like an
you have
overall,
this,
yeah,
you have
yeah,
like,
it's
because
that.
that's what I was like, wait, slow down. Because, I am like big on like, okay, taking these like daily acknowledgement and celebrating daily wins and stuff like that, because it's so funny how it can feel like moments of like, oh my gosh, nothing's working out, nothing ever works
Yeah,
out for me, nothing's
yes,
going my way, oh my life is so hard. And then it's like,
yes.
oh wait, and like even
Wait a minute.
yesterday I had this big yeah, like connection, or like and then I was at this event for my book that I wrote, like it's like we just
Yeah,
forget
100%.
all
Well,
the
are
amazing
you a
stuff.
Capricorn?
I'm Aquarius.
Oh, no, I'm the same way. I'm like, I was talking to a friend a few weeks ago and I'd sent this letter or this one page, and he was like, "Oh, it looks like you have nothing going on." But it was like sarcastic because like look at what you have.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm constant like I get excited and then it just like I forget it. And so, yes, to answer your question, it's like yes, it's an acknowledgement of what I'm currently have already created, and more of like look at what you've already created and look at, this is to come,
Yeah.
and it just reminds me to just be present, be grateful. Gratitude's a huge daily thing for me.
Yeah, because it is like, I think our brains are wired on like what's next.
I
And
know.
it's like, oh, but wait, look at all the amazing stuff you already do have going on that you forget about, because it feels like in some way, oh, but that's not enough, or what's going to be next, or that's going to like fall through. And
That's right.
I was just having a conversation or left a note for somebody before this too, where it's someone who's feeling the pull of like, oh, taking this opportunity or that, like for the financial security. Like, but if I being stuck in that fear, and I was like, I freaking know that that's a real thing. But also, if you're taking that opportunity only for the financial stability, like you don't really have, that's all you have. Because
That's all you have.
and
And
you might
trust me,
not be
like
able to like a soul sucking opportunity in sort of a way, like something that already had. It's like you're not going to have the capacity to do any of these things that you're wanting to do or work on, because like, great, you're going to have an amazing paycheck. And even like
it's
on
like a
the
dangling
time
a
that you
carrot.
get to enjoy that, you're going to be like burnt out or whatever and all of that too. And I don't know why I felt that tied in with this of like, but paying attention to like what we do have, and sort of like not like, because a lot of, besides the wanting to make an impact and put our ideas out the world, then yes, it also is like the financial, like for me, that will have me looking forward. Like, right. Like,
100%.
oh,
I
I
mean,
want
I'm a
this
single
project, and
mom.
also I'm having to pay my bills in the next few months.
Yeah,
So
I'm
like, like
you
a
know, I
combination.
again, like I don't want anybody to think like, yeah, I'm a single mom. Like I financially
Same.
take care of us and this house and everything. And yeah, of course I have to sometimes take jobs for that reason. But I really now like it's not just what is it giving me, it's what is it costing me? And if it's costing me my soul, it's not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that idea. I'm gonna make a like, I'm like looking around like, where am I gonna put my list of like, and also like past stuff too, like not even like what's going on, but like look what you made happen in your life.
Yeah,
Because it's stuff that I remind myself to think about a lot when I'm like, oh no, I don't know how this is gonna happen or whatever. And it's like, remember who you are, remember what's capable of. But like, yeah, I think it would be good to have it like listed in front of me to remind me
well,
for those
a friend of
moments.
mine called me the other day for advice, and I said this to her, but I say it to myself too when I get like inundated or overwhelmed with things not working out. It's like, or if I'm making the right decision, it's like, well, I haven't screwed up thus far, and it's always semi worked out pretty good for me. Like what makes me think this time it's going to be any different? Like it's not. It's going to work out one way or another. It's just, you have to believe, like stay true. Like it works right behind you.
Yeah.
One thing, a little tip is this is washi tape. Do you know what washi tape is?
Yes.
Okay, so if anybody's listening, washi tape like Japanese masking tape. I get it in white, and that's like when I don't have like a big cork board in a room, and you want to put like I just put white washi tape with just whatever my vision boards. So you don't have to have a special place. You don't have to go get a cork board. You could just put it on your shower wall or whatever. Like if you have like a glass on the outside, you could put it on your refrigerator. You could put it on the wall in your closet, whatever.
Got it. Because the washi tape won't pull the paint off.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Thanks for the tip. I was all like, is she gonna give me a design? Because you were like, notice something. I was like, oh, is she gonna tell me how to hang something? Like, I was like, I can use design tips too.
I didn't even plan that.
No, so funny. Okay, I'm gonna ask the questions I ask everybody. One is, what is a go-to raise your joy levels?
Music.
Music.
Always.
Awesome. I ask everyone to apply this phrase to themselves. What is easiest for you, it is not always what is best for you. So what is easiest for me is blank. What is best for me is blank. So maybe like a way your mind naturally works, or a worry or habit.
I mean, what is easiest for me is like being sarcastic and injecting humor just to like numb, sort of detach myself from my real emotions. But what is best for me is to really tap into how I'm really feeling, and disconnecting, like disconnecting from the numbing, the phones and the laughter and all that, like really tapping in to myself, which sometimes I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And I'll distract myself. I'll be like, no, later. I'll just do it later.
I'll get to it later. Got it. Well, it's good to notice and acknowledge.
Yes.
Okay. The last question is, the name of the podcast is Claim It, because I feel like so often we have been programmed to move through life, like chasing these goalposts, or like even looking like, oh, I'll be enough once this, I'll be successful once this, I'll be fulfilled once that. But we're often thinking about how that looks.
Yes.
And not how that feels.
Right.
And so when we take it and shift to like, what does that feel like? We can actually like have a glimmer of claiming that right now. So what are you claiming for yourself right now?
I'm claiming that I am using my abilities to like my real authentic abilities to make people feel good. That's what I truly want to create in this world.
Love that. I love you, and I've loved this conversation and how you move
so
through
happy.
life. It's yeah, I love it.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for like having me as a guest, and I had so much fun.
Yay.